Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch another beautiful day in the Ozarks. The trees are really starting to look pretty around here. Probably not as bright as colors as we had hoped, but it's been dry. But considering the dryness, there's still some really nice colors coming off of these trees. So yeah, fall is kind of here. So the Pentagon has said that officially they have recognized that North Korea troops are in fact in Russia. Now this is not a surprise because I've been talking about it for a week now. It's been reported in multiple areas and outlets and stuff, but this is the first time that the U.S. government, the U.S. military has confirmed that it is happening. In fact, there's been reports in Ukraine that some of these North Korean troops have already been fighting on the front lines, and there's been some casualties and stuff. Those are unconfirmed, but it wouldn't surprise me. Now, I know for some of you, or most of you, you're going to say, well, so what? This isn't a big deal. I mean, the West has had troops in Ukraine since the beginning. Yes, but they were there under two different ways. Number one, people volunteered to go over there, so they weren't fighting under the American or the German flag or the British flag. They were just going over there. And then I have no doubt that the West has sent troops into Ukraine. There's been lots of evidence of that to actually do forward fighting. But it was unofficially, it was quietly, and they denied it. This is the first time that it's been out in the open that another nation's troops have gone into this war and fought under their own banner. So this is definitely a big escalation, I believe, and that's exactly how it's being reported, that it's an escalation. I think personally what's going to happen is it will be more fuel for the fire for NATO to become more involved. I mean, I don't know how much more. Basically, the only more involvement that NATO could have is by actually declaring that their troops are going to be on the ground in Ukraine fighting. Because the billions and billions of dollars that we need. You know, when I say NATO, I'm talking about the United States because for the most part we are NATO. But we've spent billions and hundreds of billions of dollars in Ukraine. You all know that. But they've been, I think, trying to come up with a good reason to turn NATO troops into Ukrainian troops. And this just may be that thing. This may be the thing that escalates this even further by putting North Korean troops. BRICS is going on, and you know, all they're doing is just showing how they're getting along and how they're becoming more and more powerful, and how they're, you know, at some point going to overtake the U.S. dollar. Now, yes, I know it may take a little while, but it may not take as long as you think. Just how things are rolling with BRICS, especially looking at gold and silver right now, just continually going up. All it's doing is weakening the dollar's buying power, and it's weakening the public, the international perception of the U.S. dollar. We end up having some social breakdown here in the United States due to this election, which it's getting almost to the point of being guaranteed, then I think the U.S. dollar will lose more, because the world will see that the United States is not quite as stable. You know, if there's a stolen election, probably can't say that here on YouTube, but we'll see. I'm not saying if, I'm not saying it is. I think a lot of nations would see the weakness in the U.S. dollar, because in the end, that's really anymore the only thing that gives the U.S. dollar any kind of backing is just the faith in it, you know, the belief that it's worth something. I mean, it's been weaponized, and it's always been believed that the U.S. military is what gives the U.S. dollar power, you know, the backing of the military. But the military Well, I mean, look at all these nations that's walking away from the dollar. That used to never happen because we'd go to the war with them, or we would assassinate their leader or do something like that. Do some type of coup in their nation if they said that they were going to use something else. And here we have nation after nation saying that they're walking away from the US dollar, and nothing's happening to them. So there's less and less people that have all this faith in the United States military. And then just the wokeness and the inability to secure like the Red Sea shipping areas, that kind of stuff. I would think that there's more and more countries that have not enjoyed using the US dollar but has felt compelled, that are feeling less and less forced into it. And now that there's going to be another option. This is all of this alone, not even talking about the other stuff going on. Just this alone is a big deal. It would be the end for this nation, because once we lose currency prominence, once we become completely insolvent, you're going to see inflation all the way up to the point of hyperinflation. The billions and trillions, the trillions of US dollars that are outside this country will start coming back to this country. People will start dumping US dollars, and it would be no different than the United States printing that same amount of money. And we're talking, at least $8 to $10 trillion. That's an astronomical number, and that much more currency added into the mix would, at the very least, have some serious inflation, but most likely hyperinflation. This is also going to be the doorway to force central bank digital currencies on us, because they're going to say, well, the US dollar is no more, and no one is using it, or it's not worth anything. So we've got to switch currencies on you so that you can have something that you can actually buy your loaf of bread with without hauling your wheelbarrow of cash in. And so the point is, like I said many, many times, almost daily, this is all part of a big plan, folks. A big plan to crash the system so that they can replace the system with something that they have pretty much absolute control over. Which means absolute control over you, is how that translates. These are things that we have to be preparing ourselves for, because while it's possible that these events are many, many years off into the future, maybe decades off into the future, it's becoming less and less likely that they are decades off into the future. It's becoming more likely that they're months, or maybe even a couple of years or so. And when these things start to finally happen, it's gonna be horrible. I've spoken for years about what went on in Venezuela with their hyperinflation, what went on in the Weimar Republic, and all of these other countries where their currency lost its value, hyperinflated, and the country just fell apart. This is the kind of stuff that we're going to have to deal with if this trend continues, and it doesn't look like there's any end in sight at this point. That means you need to be self-sufficient. That means you need to have a good network of other people where you can lean on each other and where you can barter and trade. You need to, I know I keep saying it, you need to not be dependent upon things. You need to learn to do for yourself. You need to learn to be a producer, not a consumer. That's what most Americans are. They're consumers. They're not producers. Not producers for their own things. Even the majority of farmers today, they're monocrop farmers. They produce one thing. They're not self-sufficient. They're not like farms used to be 100 years ago, where they may have focused on one area, but they also had a milk cow and a garden and some chickens and things like that. Vast majority of farms don't have any of that. They produce wheat. That's it. Other than that, they live just a normal life, you know, what would be considered normal modern life. Or they produce beef and they still buy everything from the store. People just don't seem to have that survivalist spirit in them anymore. So many people do. And when all of these events start to kind of fall apart, unravel, you're going to see humans, and here in the United States, you're going to see people just behaving in the most insane ways. It's could potentially look as bad, if not worse, as some of these third world countries where they almost act like animals because they're desperate. We see that already now in some areas where people just kind of fall apart and act like animals. I know this is very doomsday-ish. I know this is, you know, sounds so extreme, but these kind of things have happened in other nations that were that the scenario wasn't as worse, as it wasn't as bad as it is now. It's worse now here than it's really ever been in any other country. And so the possibility of things actually getting to that level are severe and serious and likely. You add to that civil war because of the election, you add to that World War III, the constant invasion at the border, all of these things all combined is a perfect storm. You need to get ready for it. Get your houses in order, folks. Prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.